Hello and welcome to week number 11 of our introduction to criminal investigation. This particular module we're going to be doing this week centers around dead bodies and death investigations. It's something that when you're a police officer, you're inevitably going to be involved in something like that. Most of the times it's unattended deaths. Sometimes it's a suicide. And on the rare occasions, it's a homicide. But there are certain policies and procedures that you follow. Included in this module is the policy and procedure for dead bodies, the things that you have to do as a first responding officer. We're also going to talk about that as far as the crime scene goes. You're going to look at the fact that there's a policy and procedure for evidence collection because it's very, very important. Particularly when you're dealing with a death, whether it's a natural death, whether it's a suicide, whether it's a homicide, all those types of things there. So there's certain protocols that you have to use in order to get a successful investigation. Here in Massachusetts, all death investigations are supported by the Essex County District Attorney's Office, the CPAC unit that's assigned from the state police to the District Attorney's Office. That's the Crime Prevention and Control Unit. They will be doing a joint investigation with you, and they're going to be working and coordinating those things there. There's a whole situation there within the modules about looking at different types of death investigations. Those are for you to look over. I have some videos there also that are going to deal with death investigations, crime scene management, looking at the involvement of a medical examiner. To also see a very interesting thing is that here in Massachusetts we have the Office of the Medical Examiner that's out of Boston, and there's another one out of Springfield. But when we have a death that's unattended or a suspicious type of death, is a medical examiner is going to be involved with that. One of the things that happens is the person, even though there's an obvious situation where they're dead, they have to be pronounced. And the pronouncement can be made by a doctor, can be made by a nurse, can be made by a nurse practitioner. And now with our new state laws, a person can be pronounced dead by a paramedic or an EMT. Once that proclamation is done, the investigation kicks in. You'll see in that policy and procedure those things that happen with that and getting that process going. One of the big things in the death investigation is making sure that you have a clean and secure crime scene. One thing that we always train the officers to do is that the first thing you do when it's an obvious death that's in there and there's nothing that can be done to resuscitate a person is that you're going to put your hands in your pocket and you're going to step back. You don't want to touch things. You don't want to contaminate the crime scenes. You want to make sure that the investigation goes there. There's all types of situations. Also, one thing that has to be determined in a death investigation is the time of death. And you're going to see some very interesting situations about the body farm and how we look at decomposition of a body, but also the fact that you're going to be try to collect and maintain the significance of DNA that's involved in a crime scene. We're going to look at that a little bit more as we go along here. You're going to look at types of situations, what you have to do as a police officer, the people that you have to notify. One other thing is you're going to also sometimes have to make a death notice and talking to people. But this is where it's so important that proper policy and procedure is followed by everybody involved in the death investigation. And so I just want to take a look here at some of the situations where we look at DNA as a significant part of evidence collection and preservation in looking at those things there. So one part of that is community policing, is that when you are there, is that particularly in a death investigation, is that if it's a murder or something like that, you're going to look at that and you're going to problem solve. You're going to look at community partnerships. partnerships right that happen there with the medical examiner's office, with in dealing with witnesses, dealing with the state police, all those types of things that go on there, and also the fact that the DNA can exonerate people. We don't want to charge a person, particularly in a homicide, if they're innocent. Is that we have to look at the fact that under accreditation is that the special chapter, 83.2.7, that talks about the first responder responsibilities and the different precautions that they're going to take, especially with the crime scene. One thing when we look at DNA is that we have two different types of DNA: the nuclear DNA, and that's DNA that's inherited from your parents. And it's very unique to each individual. We also have a mitochondrial DNA, and that's inherited through your mother. And this is sometimes where we get what's called familiar DNA, where even if we get DNA, and it's very kind of controversial, is that even if you don't have that person's DNA, you can look in, particularly now with Ancestry.com and those other places, you can look at people that may have similar DNA and then narrow it down to a suspect. The biggest thing at the crime scene is not contamination, cross-contamination, being able to package the DNA correctly and preserving it and transporting DNA to the labs and doing those things. Is that you have to really establish the crime scene. And then what we usually say is once you have that established, the crime scene established, where people can come in and out, all that, is that you need to double that area. Just to be careful and to be sure that you're not going to miss any type of evidence that's out there. You want to limit the number of people that have access to the scene, and as you'll see in the video, is that you need to keep a log of everybody. And the biggest thing to keep rubberneckers out of there is to tell everybody that goes into the crime scene is you got to write a report, and that will keep a lot of people, particularly police officers, will keep them from snooping around, knowing that they got to write a report. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you have the location there, the condition of the environment, and also making sure that there's a chain of custody that's going on there. You're going to be taking notes. You're going to be making diagrams. More importantly, you're going to be making a photographic and a video and audio history of that death investigation that's going on there, or any other type of crime scene investigation that may involve DNA. You're going to look at different types of sources. DNA is what's called transitioned or touch DNA, all those types of things. They can come from a number of different sources from a person. You're going to look at other things that they're going to have, even when you have situations with types of fluids from a person, cigarette butts, all those types of things that go on there. What you want to also look at is that the DNA on a victim or a suspect, is that's transferred DNA. There's DNA that can be on weapons. There's DNA that can be transferred to clothing, any type of contact that a person comes with that. And this is why the preservation of everything is just so important in looking at those things there. When you're looking at sexual assault situations, you're going to look at the transfer of semen that can be on the victim. It can be on the suspect's body as well. That type of thing. Clothing, towels, bedding, condoms. One of the things with condoms and other things that are used in sexual assault, especially a condom, is that you're going to have the victim's DNA is going to be on the outside of the condom, and if the person is sexually active with them, the suspect's victim is going to be there. So looking at the way that all those types of things are handled. You're going to look in sexual assault that there are certain areas where fluids are going to be there, dealing with those types of things, all those things that work with there. You're going to also look at saliva and all those types of bite marks. So one thing we took at with bite marks is that there's going to be DNA that's transferred from the suspect to the victim by the manner of that bite and bite mark that goes on there. Anything that comes into contact with somebody's mouth, things that are left behind, is that you have to really be careful. And this is one of the things why you're going to use protective gear. You're not going to be able to transfer your DNA. You can't sneeze, you can't smoke, you can't cough, all those types of things there. You don't want to do this. You want to look again at the clothing and the crime scene and anything that seems out of the way. This is where you take that time that's there. You're looking at hairs and fibers. You're looking at using certain types of lighting that will look at the evidence that's not visible to the naked eye. You're going to look at situations where in the bathroom can be holding DNA with urine and feces doing there. Any type thing that person touches, that any contact the person has, and look at those types of things with DNA sources. You want to look at the fingerprints with touch DNA. Not only are you going to get a latent fingerprint, but the fingerprint is also going to contain DNA. Any type of thing that a person has, whether they have glasses on, mask, gloves, all those types of things, and sometimes they're going to discard those things or they're going to run away and it's going to drop off of them. You have to look at those types of things. There are certain things when you look at blood. There's a chemical called luminol that will show the presence of human blood. You can look here at this slide here. Is that nothing can be seen to the naked eye there, but when you do the luminol, you're going to be able to pick up where the person's walked through some blood and blood stains that are there. You want to look at the thing that you when you're there, as the officers, you're going to see from looking at the news clips and everything, that the police and the evidence techs are going to have to be wearing all those types of protective gear that we're getting so familiar with anyways with the COVID situation. They're looking at how the officers have to wear gloves. They have to really properly dispose of those gloves. The gloves are going to be preserved. You don't want to contaminate anything. You're going to use disposable instruments to swab things, and then being able to clean up the area. The fact that when we have cell phones is that you cannot contaminate the scene with that. If you use a cell phone with your gloves on, you have to change your gloves every time you use your phone, anytime you use anything there. Constantly changing the gloves so that you're not transferring touch DNA from one article to another. And again, we get back to the luminol to work with those things. There are other things called alternate light sources that will show things. We'll see the ultralight will get fluids and semen and all those types of things that are out there. We want to look at the different types of body fluids that can be detected through ultraviolet lighting and the crime scene lighting that will go with those things. And then you're going to store and transport the evidence. And what you want to do is you want to look at those things. You're going to be linking the suspect to those area. You're going to have standards, and then we have CODIS, the combined DNA situations. You want to have control swabs where you're going to collect areas so that you know what's going on there. When you have a specific item like shoes or hats or something, you're going to keep that whole thing. You're going to be able to swab and scrape and get all types of different blood things that are going on there, and you want to maintain those types of things there. You want to make sure that all those types of things there, because you need the best evidence that is going to go on there. And the DNA also has to be dried and transported and packaged. We're going to get all those types of things with that. This is done by the crime lab. We're not going to spend too much time with that. And just getting everything packaged and get it off to the State Police Crime Lab. And once that's there, we're going to have a successful completion of those things and a successful class that goes on there. So I'm looking forward to get a little exercise to do with that. And I want you to have a good, safe week, safe and healthy week, and be out there. If you have any questions, again, please feel free to contact me. I'm available at all times and look forward to seeing your responses. Take care. Have a good week.